Hi guys, and welcome back to episode 22 of the In the Hub podcast, brought to you by Playbox Technology UK. On this week's episode, we speak to Petra Oblak, co-CEO of Vision 247, life coach and mentor. Petra has been at the forefront of the broadcasting technology industry since 1988, founding a number of internationally successful broadcasting companies. Currently, Petra is managing Vision 247's OTT platforms and working with content providers to help with the monetisation of their content. She's also channeling her experience and expertise into life coaching and mentoring for corporations or individuals undergoing change. So, good morning, Petra. Welcome to the In the Hub podcast. How are you today?
Good morning, Neil. Thank you for having me. I'm great. Thank you.
So we'll just get straight into the questions then, if that's okay with you, Petra.
Yes, sure.
Awesome. So, Petra, how did you get started in the broadcasting and media industry?
Well, you're looking back probably 25 to 30 years. Well, I've always really had a drive for business. And I was really... it was really entrepreneurial ambition that encouraged me to come to London in the first place. I was born in Slovenia, at the time old Yugoslavia. And, you know, for me, England was this land of endless opportunities. And within 2 years of arriving in London, I co-founded my first company, Connection Exports. And I believe that was around 1988, 1989, somewhere around there. And in fact, that I ended up in broadcasting and technology sector was really just a business decision. It wasn't because I had some specific background on broadcasting.
Yeah.
It was really based on opportunities and contacts that I and my business partner had at that time.
So it was more a case of you just kind of found yourself in the broadcasting industry and it kind of went through from there.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, I came from old Yugoslavia, and at the time that combined 7 different regions, and every region had a national broadcaster. And over the years, you know, the private market came through, and this is where we saw an opportunity for, being part of broadcasting.
Yeah. And it's interesting hearing an outsider's kind of perspective on London, as well as being kind of a land of opportunity as well. Because you tend to kind of forget that when you're born within the UK and you live within the UK.
You know, that I mean, I'll never forget, coming to London, it was just like, oh my God, the country, the things that were made so difficult in old Yugoslavia. When I was back home, I wanted to have my own business, right? And there were just a list of requirements, to start a business, on the training, on the paperwork and all. They just made it very hard for you to build something. And I always had that surge. I got to do something. I want to do it outside that socialist environment. I felt completely strangled working in my company, not my company, in a company in Yugoslavia. It was called Iskra, telecommunication company. Working whatever it was, 7 till 3 every day or 4. And it was that urge, that really drove me to come to London. Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting start, Petra. And just branching off that a little bit, could you kind of paint a picture for us of the nature of the broadcast industry when you kind of founded your first broadcasting company?
The nature of the broadcasting was completely different at that time. We've mainly worked with broadcasters in former Yugoslavia. You're talking classical broadcasting, shipping boxes, monitors. And, there was no computer in the broadcasting sector at that time. So when I've actually founded my first company, it was called Connection Exports. That really was a system integration provider, for broadcasters. And as part of that, we became a representative, a distributor for a number of other broadcasters, and such as Panasonic Broadcast, Matrox, if you remember, Fora, those were the brands at a time, Sony Broadcast. And as I said at the beginning, majority of our business was with broadcasters and production companies in former Yugoslavia. And we must have installed over 40 regional TV stations just in that region alone. But, we've expanded business very rapidly into different markets. And, we've very soon expanded activities into Africa, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and really probably successfully completed over 150 large broadcast projects worldwide. And that's what the broadcasting for me at that time was, building TV stations, TV centers. One of the first ones we built was Abu Dhabi News Center, stations in Nigeria, Georgia, or even just simply equipment supply to countries like India and so on. Yeah.
How difficult was it for a TV station or a channel to kind of get up and running at that point?
At that time, things might have been even easier to some extent because there was kind of box set for a TV channel. Not much was changing at that time, It was as it was. But so I wouldn't think it was difficult to get a TV channel up and running, especially a small setup, providing they had a staff willing to be trained and that they had sufficient time allowing for installation, testing and training. And, I found over the years that, somebody makes a decision today, I want to have a TV channel, and then they come to you and say, I want to launch tomorrow. So if there is a challenge, is customer expectation of how
they've got
fast,
to be managed.
They want that implementation. And also, different on the countries. We were always very international company, had a wide range of international customers. So again, depending on the country, some countries would be more challenging to work in than others. And I traveled extensively during this period of time, Eastern Europe, States, Middle East, countries like Macedonia, Yugoslavia, after the war, My work took me to Iraq in 2004, I think it was. That's where we installed the first private TV station in Baghdad. And that was super challenging in the midst of war. And I traveled there with Don Ash. At the time, he was head of our system integration at Honor Systems. He moved on to found Honor Playbox, and we stayed friends and worked together for a number of years after that. And, we traveled to Baghdad. There was not even a commercial flights at the time. We had to take a small special plane of 10 people that had to land, a spiral land because of all the bombing. And, we were very lucky on the ground. We had an engineer called David Isaac who picked us up. And when he picked us up, everybody from the airplane and some other people, the airport was like middle of the desert. It was like completely deserted.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And he picked us up, and we were the only ones not having received the life jackets. And me and Donna looking at him and said, why aren't we having a life jacket? She said, well, because you don't want to cause, you don't want to be seen that you're somebody different. So we're just going to go in the car and we're going to drive very fast. And he even put us in a different hotel to where all the press was staying, because he said that's where it's most dangerous, where everybody else is. So we were only there for two nights, and it was just great to be part of building up this TV station to allow the right information to go out to people. It was, history changing, so these are like the highlights that gives you those pleasures in the broadcasting, that you do help people through broadcasting.
It sounds like, even though obviously that being your kind of first move into the industry, it sounds like there are already some unforgettable experiences being made.
Absolutely.
How did the business grow from your kind of first system integration company to where it is today?
Oh, wow. I think the system integration was the foundation of all my businesses for many, many years.
Yes. Yeah.
But the business took a fundamental turn in early 90s with digital editing system entering broadcasting. And that was a major milestone in broadcasting and also for us in our organization, you know. And I think the main success always with my businesses was the understanding of customer demand and then having that knowledge of what is coming next.
Yes.
Or the knowledge of technology. So I was very lucky to work with people within the industry, within my company, like Matt Vidmar, who was a real visionary always and knew what would be coming next.
Yes. Yeah. That's the kind of people you need, isn't it?
You know, and the change from really a just integrator or, you know, distributor, really the biggest change happened, as I said, in the early 90s. We've launched our first server, right? There was, you know, we were not reselling it anymore. We've started building, manufacturing our stuff. So we've had this first, I'll never forget, Alpha 63 server, yeah? We called it X server. It was like the first, I think, 63, yeah, first 63 megabits. So it was a big thing at a time, yeah?
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing this huge.
Yes. And we were attending IBC and Montreux. You know, I remember even our first advert as a company was because of this new X server that we built. And we had this advert with David Bowie.
Blimey.
And the picture of the X server. You know, I don't know why combination, but, you know, that's what it was. But it was a big milestone for us and it was fun. And actually our first customer, and again, I'll never forget, was actually the South African Interpol. Bought 3 of those servers. So this is also, you see, with the technology, you know, we were always co-broadcaster, but the market was always also slightly outside that box. And you know, and now we are suddenly becoming a company that actually owned products. We had our own brand, and that started to make a huge difference, you know, just open new opportunities and gave us real advantage over competitors. And, you know, suddenly we are among leading drivers within the industry. Yeah, we actually won a technology award for streaming network installation in Bombay around that time as well. So it was just, sometimes I think it was when you let the change take you on, when you embrace the changes, and if you've got the knowledge, it just happens for you, isn't it? You let the change to drive you to the success.
I think that's a brilliant sentiment, Petra. And I, as you were saying kind of earlier, it's kind of like a fine line between obviously knowing what your customers want now, knowing what the demand is like now, and having these people like the visionaries on the team that can predict what's coming and action that as well.
Yeah, and you know, so then now we've got servers, and then the next big thing, it's nonlinear system editing. You know, that I'll never forget. That suddenly, you know, you're talking to traditional broadcasters for years and years, you know, the engineers who were in the industry for 40, 50 years. And then suddenly they've got this non-editing system. And it's like, we don't want it. We do not trust computers. We don't want that. You know, there was a huge resistance. Actually, to think about it, though we always embrace the change positively, the older traditional state broadcasters, that took years to change, just the attitude and also, you know, the word in broadcasting always was, if it works, don't fix it. So why would we want a nonlinear system? Everything works perfectly. And, you know, and again, we went on with time and we've built the first nonlinear editing system. At the time, it was called Division. And, you know, it allowed the file to be captured on computer disk. And, you know, it was a fantastic new things that happened, right? And we were again right there with the system, traveling to shows like IBC Montreux, showing our nonlinear system, and selling it as part of the integration, either the whole TV station or just as a product to a client. Yeah. But again, the changes were always there. And then I think we've hit a new millennium and more technology development changes that affected the business. And then at that point, we've actually rebranded our business from old correction exports, which was really just equipment provider, distributor, integrator. We rebranded to, we founded actually a new company called On Air Systems, and start developing our own products and software for customers. So having gone through the changes on hardware and starting hardware development, we now say, you know what, we got to get into software development.
Yeah. So I know we've obviously been talking a lot about change, and obviously, well, we can see for ourselves, can't we, the immense benefits that it's had for our industry. But, is change always a good thing in our industry, or are there any kind of drawbacks that you can think of?
I think change in technology, it always brings new challenges.
Yeah.
But in my experience, though, on first sight, could look like a threat to the business model. Important thing for businesses to grasp new technologies that provide most cost-effective and better quality service to a customer, right?
Yeah.
And the challenge I really enjoyed, and the key element of change, was the work with the staff to ensure they are supported. So I would say change, it's always, yes, I would embrace it, absolutely. And, also just the change that we went through with, for example, owning technology and then utilizing that to provide services to a customer. It's sometimes the change is inevitable. And I really enjoyed play-out services, working directly with customer on a daily basis, on building that long-term relationship. And it's different to integrate a TV station, right?
Yes.
And you hand over the station, or you provide equipment, resell equipment. Yes. There is a different element to when you use your technology to provide the service. And it's that part that I really enjoyed, working in service sector, bringing international content to the UK, enjoying day-to-day channel play-out operation, just different and much more enjoyable for me.
100%. Yeah, I can see that. I think, yeah, it's, as you said, you can't stop people innovating. It always needs to be happening, even if it's kind of really peripheral vision, right outside. But it's, I think it's something that obviously needs to happen, and it, should continue. So what can happen if you're too reluctant to change in broadcasting? Have you seen any kind of first-hand yourself?
Well, I don't think the business could survive unless it embraces the changes. And I think this would apply to any business. But particularly in broadcasting, would actually apply to both a broadcast service provider or broadcast equipment provider, as much as a broadcaster itself. It just have to change with time. And, if you wish to keep going, even if you don't like the change, you're forced into it. I just don't think it's any other way. And if I look my history of business, every change, as I said, though might look challenging, it always at the end brought a good outcome, and business developed, changed the course, grow. It's
In that sense, I think time is a really valuable resource, isn't it, to see how these technologies can progress and how can they eventually fit in. Because like you said, now looking back now to the huge servers and everything like that, and how technology's progressed from there, it's really crazy to look back sometimes.
It's crazy if and I don't think you can ever even single out one change throughout the broadcast. If I look back, for example, how it was all changing, you've had probably the biggest initial change was going from black and white to color TV, right?
Of course, yeah, huge.
Then you've got this computer. I mean, I still remember black and white movies at a time. Then you've got into color. Then obviously I remember working in the industry when computer entered broadcasting and, how that controlled the tape machine and allowing all this multi-channel broadcast.
Yeah.
And then I think probably the next big change was the tape to file change.
Yes,
when we abandoned the tapes and we suddenly use files, you would hardly see any tape machines in the facilities anymore. But then the latest and probably one that I would select as a biggest change, I think it would be streaming.
100%. Yeah, I was going to ask what can you sum up one single change that you think has had the most impact, has been the most beneficial? But yeah.
I would
it's streaming. I completely agree.
I would probably pick up streaming. Just, and as I said, it's usually the last thing that happens to you, right? So when I was at the point of, computer, it's like you would have think nothing else can probably change. This is such a huge change, right? This is such a huge contribution. What else can possibly, so now it's streaming, God knows what's going to be in 10 or 15 years. But so far, streaming.
So it's almost scary in a way, but it's too exciting as well. That's the problem.
It is, isn't it? It's like every change. It's scary, but it's equally exciting.
100%. Completely agree. I think, So in terms of OTT, and I know you've obviously dabbled in this, how has the rise of OTT been progressing, especially during the pandemic as well, with lots of people at home?
Obviously it's been pandemic overall. It's been just horrible and, terrible experience. But, we all have to keep going. And, at Vision, as always, continues to innovate its product line and services, especially in order to facilitate this growing online demand. So we've back in April or March made a decision to launch a new global OTT platform. And in September we did. And, it's called One Hub TV. We're using in-house technology, our own extreme streaming solution. And again, it was one of those decisions, market is there requiring this. Demand is there. And we have in-house technology. So, it just makes sense. So platform gives content owners really opportunity to reach global audience and offer content via subscription. But we also manage a Vision TV OTT platform. This is an older platform. It's been around for about 7 years. In addition to being an OTT platform, it's also available on Freeview OTT. But I can see a huge jump in streaming services in past year. All our streaming services have seen massive jump in viewership, and some keep doubling every month now.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
And that would be either our platforms. One Hub TV, it's new, but Vision TV, being around for a long time. Simply doubling. And also we provide obviously streaming services to other broadcasters, to other content owners. It's just really huge increase.
I think OTT itself was on a pretty good trajectory anyway, wasn't it, before obviously coronavirus and the pandemic, and then obviously we got hit with this really terrible pandemic, and it's a lot of people at home consuming a lot of content.
I think that about 4 or 5 years ago, we all knew that the traditional satellite distribution is going to move over to internet. But I think we were all saying, we've got another 4 or 5 years run. That actually turned into 2.5 years. And I think that it's just, and it just happened really fast. And, and this is where it is important for a broadcaster to follow that trend. And, a number of my customers added streaming to their traditional satellite distribution. Yeah. So they would then have streaming available, though that there was not so much viewership there, but they were there when it quickly turned around, while some broadcasters who were too much in traditional broadcast really got into trouble because, it just takes time to set up the services and, to adjust for viewers to adjust to your changes in your channel. So, yeah.
And Petra, I think just to kind of wrap up then, this is a question we ask at the end of every podcast. And it's just, if you could sum it up in one word, what do you envision for the future of the broadcasting industry?
I'll try to sum it in one word. Let me think. But, seeing the changes happening, seeing where we are today, I believe that it's going to be, and I think we are to some extent already getting there, right? But I think the merger of fintech, television, social media, e-commerce, wallet, merger of all these platforms, all in one. So if I used a one word, would it be maybe two words, unified platform, or all in one, or merged?
Unification,
Really, the merger of all those platforms, they will have to come in one form.
I think, fundamentally as well, it's going to be the whole connected TV type thing, isn't it? And having all these different platforms that you can reach viewers on. And that's just the way we consume content now, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's just simply evolved.
And I think that's what, again, it's, I think that people always seek for something better. Yeah, that's our human nature. We always want something better. And as technology is evolving, that's something better. It's faster available because technology is there to accommodate there. So, I think probably unified platforms where you can just get it, fintech, TV, social media, e-commerce, all in one, and that's where we're going to be.
Yeah, completely agree.
At some stage in future.
Yeah, and it's going to benefit us as consumers as well, isn't it? It makes everything easier, more accessible.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we are moving. Everything moves very fast nowadays. There is so much of information, so much of everything. Yeah. And again, yes, consumers will always drive, and technology giants, they will accommodate and give all of that experience to end user.
100%. That's what we love about the industry as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Petra, moving over to you personally, is there anything exciting in the pipeline for you at the moment? What are you up to now?
Well, you know what? I've obviously been doing this for a very long time, and I have a vast amount of experience. I love, within the industry, I loved always working with a client, with a TV channel. That was always my passion. Just building that long-term relationship with a client, setting up new businesses. That's what I always, that was and I think that's why I founded so many companies and then sold them and, founded another one.
It's just entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? And you can't shake it.
And then when you're launching new services or you're launching new TV channel, it's like, for me, it's something new. So I'm excited and I'm good at it. But again, I do enjoy that human relationship. I probably wouldn't be happy sitting at the computer and, doing something just with the computer all day. Yeah. I do like that. And, I've worked with, obviously, run the businesses, I've run businesses with 10 to 120 people. And I always also enjoy that relationship with employees, And I think that's also a big part going through the changes in broadcasting is, you have to accommodate your team, right? You've got to support the team going through changes. It's hard. for some, and you suddenly bring in new technologies, it's new trainings, it's hard. So I enjoy that mentoring part, within my always jobs that I had, which was either a CEO, commercial director, HR director at some stage, and CEO at the moment. And I'm seeing myself in the future more entering to mentoring, coaching side of the service, within the corporate business, not necessarily, obviously my experience is wholly within the broadcasting, but really within the broadcasting or any other business, in supporting maybe businesses going through change, supporting employees going through change, because I lived through so many.
Yeah, 100%.
And I have that experience and knowledge. So that is something I'd really like to move on to at some stage.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, you're really well placed to be able to advise, different corporations, companies on this kind of thing, because you've been through it yourself. You know the knock-on effects. You know what happens.
Yes.
Yeah, completely agree. So, how can anyone get in touch with you if they're interested in anything you're up to at the moment?
Well, obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. That's the easy. Then I, of course, I manage, I've actually within Vision 24/7 managed One Hub TV and Vision TV, our OTT platforms. So either through Vision 24/7 on those two platforms. So on there, I mainly work with content providers who want to come on the platform to monetize their content. And then, yes, and I am in the process of in future setting up the coaching and mentoring, but anybody interested in that, as I said, LinkedIn is the best way for both, for the Vision platforms or for consultancy or anything else.
So Petra, that's absolutely everything. If there's anything else you wanted to add, please feel free.
No, just to say thank you.
No, brilliant. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on. It's been a really enlightening, and it's great to hear about some of your stories and experiences.
Well, I could talk for another 3, 4, 5 hours.
We'll have to do an extended uncut version as well.
Because when I started thinking a little bit, I was like, I start remembering all these stories, and you're like, wow, have I really done that much? Have I really had such a huge experience?
Yeah, it's just it must be such a source of immense pride for you as well, being able to look back and obviously through the sheer amount of change you've been through.
It is really, and you know what? When you're looking back, you always remember the good stuff as well.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
And I think that's important when you're going. If anybody would going through the changes now, and it seems really hard, it is. But when you're looking back, almost every change, either you learned from it and you've done something different, next time, or it really helped to move forward and impacted the business or personally in positive way, So, of course I had a fair share of difficulties, but of course, you don't remember those anymore. You remember successes, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. That's the way it should be. I think that's a great note to end on then, Petra. So thanks so much for taking the time and coming on. It's been great to speak.
Thank you.